I took a classic checkerboard cookie and I gave it a Wonderland twist. Hi, it's Hani here. Welcome to my YouTube channel. In this step-by-step cookie decorating tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create variety of different checkerboard shapes using the checkerboard cookie. And we're going to decorate these with royal icing roses, hearts, and pretty swirls. So without further ado, let's make Alice in Wonderland checkerboard cookies. Here are the colors I'm going to be using: green, pink, and blue. And I used a really lovely plaque shape to cut out cookies along with a heart shape. This is the log that I created to make square checkerboard cookies. I'm going to cut these cookies to about slightly over a 1/4 inch thick. You want to be able to roll a rolling guide over the checkerboard layer so you can first of all fuse these cookies together, and then secondly I wanted to create slightly kind of distorted checkerboard pattern, slightly warped pattern. So this way I'm going to be able to do that. I'm using a chilled cookie dough, but before I roll it out, it's going to become kind of room temperature very quickly, so you don't even have to wait for it to kind of soften a little bit. But the cookie dough will be slightly softer, which is what you want. And then put 2 rolling guides on each side, 1/4 inch thick, and then carefully, you don't want to do this very quickly, just very lightly run it over, and you'll see that the dough is spreading slightly, and it's going to create a beautiful checkerboard pattern that is slightly warped. That's what you want. You can stick it into the fridge for a couple more minutes to make sure that the dough is chilled enough so you can easily cut out these cookies and transfer them onto the baking sheet. And then you want to bake these in a preheated oven at 350 degrees of Fahrenheit, about 180 degrees of Celsius, for about 8 to 10 minutes. Aren't they amazing? I love how these turned out, and now we can start working on our decorations. I'm going to start with these royal icing bows. I'm using piping tip number 68. It's a small leaf piping tip, and I'm using thick consistency royal icing here. So when you're doing these bows, you want to anchor that first line, when the first bit of icing, and then you're going to go slightly forward so you can tuck that line under, and then you're going to come back forward again, making the second loop. It's important that the second loop is close to the first one, so you can see here. So let's do this again. So going slightly forward and then moving forward again and pulling away. So tucking that in, going forward and pulling away. I'm going to clean up the edges because the tails on these royal icing roses are not super pretty. So it's a good idea to kind of trim them, and it's going to make them look a bit more polished. If you'd like, you can also spray these with gold luster dust. I love using this spray pump with gold luster dust. I use it for almost everything. It's very quick and really works. Look how pretty. Let these dry for about 8 to 12 hours, and then you can remove them from the parchment. I've got the parchment secured onto a plexiglass here. To make royal icing roses, I'm using thick consistency royal icing, and we're going to add some strawberry flavoring. This is water-based strawberry emulsion. Oh, I wish you could smell it. I'm just going to add a few drops, and it's going to also lend the color, so I don't have to add food coloring to this. If you want, obviously you can color it with food coloring, but I love the idea of strawberry royal icing. Now I'm using piping tip 101. This is a small paddle tip. It has a wide end and narrow end. When piping these roses, your narrow end should be facing up and wide end should be facing the center of your flower nail. On the flower nail, I also have a piece of parchment that I secured onto the flower nail with just a dab of royal icing. You can make roses like this, or you can make ribbon roses. I will show you how to do both. So let's remove this one and let it dry for about 8 hours. So let's do another one. So I'm holding the bag pretty much perpendicular in the beginning to the flower nail, securing the first line of icing that it's coming out, and then I'm moving it almost parallel to the flower nail, making that first rosebud, and then going around making 3 larger petals around that first middle rosebud. So perpendicular, parallel, and now slowly pull away, and now we can start making those larger petals. Again, narrow end of the piping tip is facing up. And I'm slightly overlapping these petals, as you can see here. And then, if needed, you can clean up the edges. These will take about 8 to 12 hours to dry. So again, perpendicular, and then moving it almost parallel, and that's how you can make these ribbon rows. Those are easier to make. It's important that you anchor the icing in the middle. Otherwise, it tends to kind of slide because it's thick consistency. You can see I'm almost parallel, and I'm also turning the flower nail. And then once you are done, you stop putting pressure on the piping bag and slowly pull away. Once these are dry, we can give them a bit of life with some colored dust. I'm using red petal dust and food only paintbrush, and I'm just adding this dust in the middle of the rows. Now keep in mind these have to be dry for you to add the dust. So after they are dry, you can add the dust. And then you can either store them on the parchment, or you can remove them from the parchment and store them in a small container away from direct sunlight and moisture, and these will keep pretty much forever. Super easy to remove from the parchment. Aren't they dainty? I love these. Next thing we're going to make is royal hyacinth hearts. For these you need a template, and I put the template in a protector sheet. It's a smooth transparent protector sheet, and I'm using, this is like a soft piping consistency royal icing. It's on a thicker side, but once you connect two teardrop shapes together, it should heal. You can use a scribe tool to heal that middle separation line if needed. And you can make these in a variety of sizes. These are great for Valentine's Day or also for weddings. A little hard on a cookie, it's a great idea. And you can also use it to hide any kind of mistakes or something like that. If you have a little bit of a color bleed or something like that, you can add a little heart. Let these dry for about 8 hours, and then you can use them for the project. Now to decorate the cookies, I am using swirl design, and I'm using about piping consistency royal icing here. This is a green icing. I've got my piping bag fitted with a round piping tip. This is a writing tip PME 1.5, and I'm just gonna pipe 2 swirls in opposite corners. And we're going to add another swirl on each of these lines, and then we can work on the leaves. To make the leaves, I am cutting the bag on an angle with the long end of the cut on the seam side. So then you want to turn the piping bag with the seam up, and you can start piping these leaves. And I'm using the same consistency icing I used for the swirls, so around piping consistency. It can be slightly thicker too. You can actually play with the consistency for the leaves. You can see which consistency you prefer. When you're using thicker consistency here, you can also utilize the seam, and if you go slightly into the icing with the seam, it will create a bit of a dent, like an impression in there, and it makes it more interesting and dynamic. It kind of looks like the vein in the leaf. So essentially I'm piping at kind of like a teardrop shape, a dot, and then I am pulling away, creating a teardrop shape. Now you can attach those dry roses, and then if you'd like, you can add the hearts. I was trying not to cover the checkerboard pattern too much, but it's very hard when you have all these cute little decorations ready to go. So try not to overdo it. You can add few hearts, or you can add that lovely blue ribbon, because blue, it's the color of Alice of Wonderland, right? So I wanted to include a little bit of blue, so if you want you can add that, or you can leave it blank with just the roses. I think it's beautiful just like that. All right, now let's do the heart. Now the heart, it's a bit different. I decided to make the swirls just like randomly placed. I didn't really plan on the placement, and so you can pipe the swirls anywhere you want. And then we're going to add the leaves onto these swirls using the same piping bag that we used on the plaque. And to make this color of green, I used leaf green, and I added just a touch of black to it to kind of mute it down so it's not so bright. And I absolutely love this color. Now we can add the ribbon roses. Remember we made also some ribbon roses, and I'm adding 3 of these. And now after the leaves dry, which will take maybe an hour tops, we can paint some of those leaves with gold edible luster dust mixed with a little bit of alcohol. I used Everclear. I'm not really painting the whole leaf or the whole stems, just the part of it, very kind of subtle gold going on there. And also repeat that on all the cookies. You can also find a full step-by-step picture tutorial on my blog, hanielas.com. Those of you who are new to my YouTube channel, don't forget to subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.